I hate to say it, but even the immigration inspectors at the front desk, sometimes they're not up to speed with all the changes and how they actually work in the process.
Oh my God, how do I do
Consulates, embassies, this is another thing. If you're coming from another country thinking that you can just reach out. I'll say specifically from people from unfriendly countries, as listed by Russia, do not rely on their help or think that they're a good backup, really.
Yeah, the European part is not only, it's like Russia has so much more to give, for sure.
Absolutely.
I think it has something to do with the political instability.
Right.
It's like you don't want the evil powers kind of influencing that. It's like bad enough. You don't want any more
bad juju. It's like, how can I have bad juju just from whistling, my favorite song or something? It's like, yeah. So, we're talking 80 years ago. That knowledge was still alive. In that time, it has, certainly for me, people who grew up in cities, is completely dead. But in Russia, I see it thriving.
Hello everybody, this is Braiden Consulting. We're doing a series of interviews with really interesting people who have somehow relocated to Russia, have some experience to share. And today we're having the famous Mike Jones. Hello Mike.
Очень приятно.
Nice to meet you. It's great to have you in the studios. Thank you so much for coming. And well, you're a war journalist with plenty of experience of being in war zones. And however, today we would like to focus on your journey from the UK to Russia. So let's get going.
It's quite simple. In theory, I was offered a job with a big IT company from my gaming past. So these were the developers of the video games that I used to stream. Now I say it's quite simple. It's a route that I recommend to everyone. Ideally, you'll have a job lined up in Russia already, but more importantly, you have, in this case, it was the HR department of a large corporation that handled everything for me. So I would, if you don't have that, that's the second best option in my opinion, is have professionals who will handle the paperwork for you. Because I think in my experience since then, dealing or at least attempting to deal with things like temporary residency permit, later on permanent residency, trying to do it yourself, even for Russians, is a minefield with changing laws, as we've often discussed. It's really a bit too much for certainly a foreigner who's trying to adapt with so many other things to try and do themselves. So people may be feeling brave and I've done this before in other countries or anything, but I would certainly recommend that you get professionals to help you. So for me, yeah, I had a safety net and a very smooth transition. Despite all the other cultural elements of coming from the UK to Russia in 2018.
So professionals, that's us, by the way.
Yeah, it's correct.
And I agree, it's great to be so excited and good to be brave, but yeah, it is a minefield of bureaucracy and local laws and sometimes not friendly people. But on the other hand, some people who are really willing to help you out because they're in the same boat, but you can't really rely on that all the time because it's, a matter of luck.
And as we find, even in my work, I'm keeping up to date every day on the changes in geopolitics and things like this. The same in Russia, as well as another side of news that I keep following. And I've seen even myself how quickly and often these things, luckily now we have things like the shared values program, which didn't exist beyond last year, I think.
Yeah,
so
I know.
There are so many new avenues and alternatives that only someone paying attention every day to these changes and how they're implemented. Because again, I hate to say it, but even the immigration inspectors at the front desk, sometimes they're not up to speed with all the changes and how they actually work in the process. For instance, the shared values program, there is always this time of adaptation between the president signing a decree to then the inspector on the ground understanding that, I can tick you off here. So.
Yeah, we've actually encountered a situation where people half year through, some embassies across the world weren't aware of this going on. So when people or clients phone them and they couldn't access this through the internet from the first thing. Yeah. And then they phoned them and they were like, oh, we don't know what that is. Are you making that up? And they're like, oh my God, how do I do
Consulates, embassies, this is another thing. If you're coming from another country thinking that you can just reach out. I'll say specifically from people from unfriendly countries, as listed by Russia, do not rely on their help or think that they're a good backup, really. That's not to put you off coming, just be aware of the risks.
Yeah, and especially, again, the situations, for example, with islands or small countries, those consulates and embassies, they have literally 30 people and 2 of them are on vacation and the other one comes once a week to sign basic papers and that's it.
I've heard of even, I'm not going to say a specific country, a Scandinavian country, They're on skeleton staff, and it was the case of sharing one courier and putting this letter. This guy was telling me went with this one courier who then went across the border and was buying cheese for everyone as well. So it's not exactly not exactly this like super secure logistics network you might think. It's quite ad hoc, and people are making do with what they can.
So when your IT company offered you a job in Russia, what was your first thought? Like, wow, or why am I doing this, or should I, or whatever?
It was kind of in stages. So my situation back in England at that time, I'd been doing the video games. I had been doing them full time. My relationship had broken down. I'd moved out. I had got a full-time job at a company and was just kind of live streaming and still playing the game, but in my spare time. Through the gaming, I'd won tournaments, I'd met the staff, so I'd become friendly, and they often watched my streams. So one stream, I just happened to say, guys, it's insane in England. I can go to work at 9 a.m. and today by 9:05, that's it, I've lost my job. Literally just 5 minutes, come to the office, bye. Trying to tell even the Americans, well, Americans fully understand, but other people don't, particularly in Russia, that this is, you don't have job security really in the West. 0-hour contracts and this practice. Thankfully for me, one of the employees then messaged me quickly, oh, do you need a job? We've got an opening in Paris at the time. But that was more web content drafting, articles and things, and through the interview process we found obviously it wasn't a fit for me, wasn't a fit for them. But by applying, I blipped on the radar of St. Petersburg, where the headquarters were based, and they reached out to me and they said, please come to St. Petersburg and we believe this will be a perfect fit for you. And at that point, I was, as we say in England, in for a penny, in for a pound. I was like, well, Paris, Petersburg, same difference. Look on the map, it's kind of just move it a bit more. Fine, we'll do it. And yeah, I came and I fell in love with St. Petersburg immediately.
So what was it like starting a new life in St. Petersburg? What advice would you give someone relocating from the UK to St. Petersburg or any other country to Russia?
Well, the first main point I have already made. Ideally, you will have professionals taking care of, the most important part there, which is the bureaucracy and the paperwork. In my case, I also had help with accommodation and things, but there is an expat community. It's still a very strong one, both from the English, American side, English speaking, let's say. I've helped many other people, and there are others who are super supportive of that. So just don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be perturbed in that way. It's kind of such a big checklist to do. And equally travel around as much as you can, because a lot of people say, I want to move to Pskov. They like the area for some reason, but they haven't actually been there or actually seen. And the same applies for Moscow. I get asked, where should I rent an apartment in Moscow? And I really actually can't tell you. I can tell you places I like, but I don't know how that suits maybe your work, maybe your own personal preference. And there's parts of Moscow that Muscovites will tell you is good and bad. So I would usually defer to the locals, the tame natives as I call them, and ask for their opinion.
Can you give a brief description of the regions, just so there's like a brief...
From what I've gleaned, and unfortunately my travels have mainly been north and south, running up the highways obviously to Donbas and Peter. I have gone further up to Karelia and even as far as Vladivostok to the other side, but I can't really say. Russia is so vast. That is just a tiny little fraction of it. For me personally, I find Peter is beautiful. It's a far more relaxed city area. It has its quirks. Moscow for me is far more business orientated, money making. Most foreigners will find that Moscow is the most comfortable for them. That being said, others may find Nizhny Novgorod more to their taste, quieter. Others may find areas down south like in Rostov, Krasnodar, even Sochi. Sochi is not really talked about too many by expats, but wonderful climate down there. For some people from other countries, that's more important. For me, Peter was a perfect match for England.
Oh, definitely.
I felt at home with the rain and the grey skies and the wind from the Baltic. As this is where I stress the point, is just factor in some time and budget, ideally, to really get to know Russia and the different parts. I've not even mentioned Novosibirsk, which has a lot of selling points. That's more IT and technological focused city.
Yeah, it's amazing, by the way. Like, it's over here, but it's so advanced, and people from Novosibirsk are really waited for in Moscow to share their expertise. There are always like exchanges going on, and everybody's like, oh, Novosibirsk people, we're waiting for them, they're amazing. They're so smart.
as well as another. So there's a huge amount of options. So don't just like browse the internet and limit yourself to one. Just you really do have to go and see for yourself.
Yeah, the European part is not only, it's like Russia has so much more to give for sure.
Absolutely.
The two culture shocks you have experienced, one positive and one negative one when you came to Russia.
So yeah, I'll say a positive one was meeting, obviously meeting women. This was during the World Cup, and I met a woman who became my wife, and she was telling me, so certainly English men have this image of chivalry, of, you know, one holds the door open for women. Then there's the independent woman thing in the West where men can't do these things for women because it's a microaggression. But I thought, I was still quite old school, hold the door open, pay for the meal, things like this. No. She was teaching me, you must hold a lady's hand off the bus. Only a man can touch a woman's shoulders, so you must put the coat on. This is a level of care that I wasn't even taught in England. So I'm doing, which I thought was like the maximum by a Western female standards, was just the minimum by the Russian woman's standard. You must pour her wine, and then the empty wine bottle must go on the floor. That's an interesting story in itself.
And you do the wine tasting as well if you've ordered wine.
I'm not really a wine drinker, but
whatever alcohol.
Sure. There are all these out, and you shaking hands was a cultural thing at work, which in England we will shake hands upon introduction. I'm Mike. I'm Simon. Nice to meet you, and that's it. End of the meeting, maybe if you've done a business deal or something like that, you may shake hands at the end of it as a sort of formal gesture of having done a deal, but not every day. You don't go to your office and shake everyone's hand in your team in that office. Certainly when you say you're going home, you say, all right, guys, I'm off, see you tomorrow. You can just do that and walk away. That is hugely rude.
Yeah.
I got slapped on the wrist numerous times, and I still do to this day, actually. Not intentionally, because my mind's on the next thing, and I go, all right, mate, I'll catch you later, and I walk off, and the guy's like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
How did I insult Mike?
Disrespecting me. Yeah.
And then, someone will message that, you might have to apologize to Valeri. I was like, why? What did I do? Oh, no, I didn't shake his hand. And it's a huge thing, but be careful when you shake the hand, because there's another minefield that I stepped into. I did it as I opened the door. You never shake hands across the threshold. No. I was like, oh my God, why are Russians so superstitious? There's one thing here. So certainly I ended up getting so many slaps on the wrists, particularly from my wife with the father-in-law, with babushka, with all these tiny little things that I often discussed. I need to sit down and write a foreigner's survival guide to Russia. Even if it was just on the dating and just surviving with a partner, but it's far more than that, and even in the business world as well. Like I say, about if you go to work, you must shake everyone, but you can't shake a woman's hand in general.
Yeah, of course.
They do a awkward fist bump thing, or high-fiving.
High five, yeah.
Yeah, for me this was a bit strange. In England, you wouldn't do anything like that. You say, oh, good morning, Tanya, or something, and that would be enough. But here, you have to conform to all these little cultural differences. Now that, I don't want to say that's positive or negative. That was just a cultural sort of shock that you need to adapt to and remember. And I don't think I really want to label anything as positive or negative, really. I don't want to label them that way. They just are what they are.
Yeah. Surprisingly, like with the superstition thing, Christian Orthodoxy is it's a major thing in Russia, and the superstition goes against Christian Orthodoxy regardless. I know
I've seen the priests speak out against it a lot, and it's like, guys, please follow the Bible. But again, this lends into how countrified Russia still is, how many people do still live out there, and the same in England as well. That the old wives' tales, we call it. You'll have many of these household remedies and things like this, but often, like doctors will say, no, please don't follow this tradition or something like that. But it has been quite amusing to see some of these Orthodox priests come out. And then I learn, because they say, I try and think of an example now that the Orthodoxy is called out, but escapes me at the moment. There's things like whistling in the house.
Of course. You won't have any money, come on.
I'm the one that brings the money in. I'm the one with all the money, and you're telling me off for whistling, saying we won't have money. Yet who do you think keeps the lights on? So I just like my tune, and I'll walk through the house. Baba's like, yeah. He's like, whoa. And even on a bus or a train, I'm like, no, everyone else would be like, this is like, I don't get it. I'm just happy. And I was happy until you told me off.
I think it has something to do with the like political instability.
Right.
It's like you don't want the evil powers kind of influencing that. It's like bad enough. You don't want any more
bad juju. It's like, how can I have bad juju just from whistling, my favorite song or something? It's like, that was a big one. Not whistling in the house. I still do it. Sometimes I do it to make a point now.
Just to prove it everybody wrong.
Yeah, that's made another 100,000 rubles. La la.
It's a sign of, power establishing yourself.
Equally, yeah.
Okay, jokes aside, tell us about your new project, Off the Grid.
For anyone watching this, it can't have failed to escape their attention. Obviously, the SMO and all the death and destruction and darkness that's come along with it. And after 3 years now of covering that, I personally feel I've not given up on it, of course. I will still always, I love Donbas, I'll still go back there. But I feel now's a time for the opposite, for life creation, positivity. And also, I've been glad to see the influx and how fashionable it actually is on platforms like YouTube, where I'm not allowed anymore. But others coming in, or the travel vloggers, I went to Moscow and I didn't get beaten by the mafia, or things like this. They do the usual stuff of the supermarket, sanctions, of course, but that's fine. It gets the views.
Smile.
I'm really sick actually of Moscow Metro. It's like, guys, just calm down. Tucker Carlson already did it, so just calm down. But the key point is they're doing it because it gets views, and it gets views because there's interest. And there's interest because the mainstream media in the West just constantly runs Russia, Russia, Russia. And people can't help say, well, what's Russia like? So, of course, people do the easy thing. They land at Sheremetyevo, they go around Moscow, and they show Moscow, and they call it real Russia. That's fine. But even I prickle at that. I've never said that what I say is the truth. I've never said that I am showing real Russia. Never. I'm showing you what I'm seeing in these parts. So I know, and many other Russians said to me that really upsets us. And I agree. So I've got this project in mind. I'm still in the process of finalizing it, where I want to buy a house in the countryside. I started in St. Petersburg, and I was going to build one. As I said, there's, again, Russian culture. I was told there's a saying that in order to become a man, you must plant a tree, sire a son, and build a house. Well, I've done 2 of those. I've planted many trees. I had 1 son. And then when it came to building a house, I then ran into problems with, it was like title deed and other things. I'd bought it through a friend. So that original plan in Peter kind of fell through, but that was great, actually. I felt to go actually deeper into the Russian countryside and not build a new IKEA European looking modern house, which you see many even Russian channels do. I thought far better to buy a Sovietsky domek, which what I mean by that is they're often green, they've got shutters on there, they're throughout Donbas, they're throughout all of Russia. It's a bit like the Lada Niva, or even any Lada. It's quintessentially Russian.
Lada is a car, by the way.
yeah. 2107, I was thinking, the classic box type that you would imagine. Or even a Buhanka.
Yes, please.
Yeah, even the Buhanka, quintessentially Russian, certainly for the Russian countryside. So think that, but a house. And more importantly, I want to delve into things like Russians are not afraid to pick mushrooms.
Are other people
in England deadly afraid? You
really?
Won't find anyone. We're just taught that they're dangerous, they're poisonous, don't touch them, don't pick them, don't eat them, or anything out there.
Never heard about that. Wow.
Now, Scandinavia, it's still a strong culture of picking mushrooms. Of course, there are, dangers associated with it, but this knowledge is still passed down and kept alive. And that's just one example of a part of country life that England has certainly lost. Americans, I'd love to hear how strong their mushroom picking knowledge is, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty low on the scale of things. And not that long ago, Second World War, people were still picking mushrooms. So, we're talking 80 years ago, that knowledge was still alive. And in that time, it has, certainly for me, people who grew up in cities, is completely dead. But in Russia, I see it thriving. Even fishing, Russia doesn't have the same issues with permits. There are permits you have to get, but it's nowhere near as stringent or as restricted. And of course, that comes with the abundance of Russian land. So I see a lot of people zeroing in on a tiny little part of Russia, whereas Russia is, of course, so vast I would never be able to show it in my lifetime, but I can at least show just a small part of it. And that's the plan with Off-Grid in Russia. Not just what I'm doing at that house, but I'd like to travel as well, as we've kind of discussed, to go to different areas of Russia, north, south, further east, to see what other traditions, cultures they have, even their cuisine. People often think that it's just borscht, but Russia is a vast melting pot of all these cultures and traditions, which I'd love to explore.
Yeah, building house-wise, our boss Roman has a channel dedicated to him, to his personal life, and he builds houses. It's his hobby.
That's one thing him and I really get on with.
Yes, so we're gonna link that, and it's just really interesting. Us as employees, we kind of are in that as well, so it's pretty interesting because he literally has videos, photos,
it's great,
updates. It's pretty fun. So yeah, something to take a look at. Great. Let's go. You've been talking about how you're a journalist and how you're trying to be objective. So what measures are you taking to ensure that you're reporting as objective as possible?
Okay, you can split that into two parts. So certainly when I first started, it was mainly just sitting at my computer, kind of live streaming, like I said before, with video games. And for that, it was quite easy to be objective. You'd have, let's say, RT on the one hand with their version of events and the BBC. And sitting in St. Petersburg, never having been to Donbas, I couldn't comment either way. And that was the beauty of it. Until I then went to Donbas. Then I could no longer be objective. So there was no point even trying to. The time that I can be objective, or at least do try to be, is with interviews. And the example I'm thinking of is what happened at the Mariupol Drama Theatre with the people who were present. There to ask them questions and let them talk and show you. You don't need to be too leading with the questions. When I say too leading, what I mean is I would say to them, did you hear an aeroplane fly overhead prior to the explosion? Which is specifically what the BBC alleged. And they categorically stated no. Now, is that being objective? I don't know, really. I'm taking what I read in the West and I'm putting it to people on the ground there. In their responses, I wasn't going to edit or twist their words or like I say, in the question trying to mold the answer. And that, for me, is very simple to be objective. That's someone else's experience and I'm simply recording it and projecting it, showing it to the people in the West. When it comes to, if people ask my opinion on anything, I'm not trying to be objective there. I'm very much biased. I'm on the side of Russia. And I believe that this is a point in history where you cannot sit on the fence. Sit on the fence is cowardly. You can be on the opposite side to me. That's fine. I'll respect you. You will have your viewpoint. I have to be honest, even in Moscow, there's people who do not share my point of view.
Sure, yeah.
People in Peter as well who are not, perhaps of the same opinion. Whereas I am categorically and very much am so. Just like my grandfather was in the Second World War, Great Patriotic War, as Russians know it. For me, this is very much the same thing. I'm fighting in a different way on the information front, but there is no room for me after what I've seen, what I've witnessed, what I've literally been under, the shelling and the attacks, and the consistency I've seen, the corroboration of the evidence, I cannot be objective if people ask me, where do you stand, what are you for? I'm for Russia. I'm against certainly what the West is doing in Ukraine, and not just Ukraine, even in Gaza as well. I don't like their practices. I don't like the deep states tactics and things like this. I'm very much against that. So that, like I say, you can be objective in certain practices in certain fields, and that is fine. But to then try and be objective in certain fields, for me, it is wrong, and you're doing yourself a disservice.
So how did you get on the whole thing? How did you start being a journalist in this really intense way?
In all truth and honesty, I don't really label myself a journalist. That's one input on me. I liked it at the border. It's okay. What I mean is I don't like it because it doesn't fit. Not that it insults me. I started as a blogger, as Russians call it. So when you go to, let's say, any border or non-border, as this case, internal border, what do? I was saying journalist because I thought that was what I was doing. But a journalist has an employment contract, works for RT. Well, I don't. I'm independent. So therefore, that's more of a blogger. And I think that is much better. And yeah, you can be not necessarily objective, but you can be independent, and you're not going to have to conform to some editor's predefined script. I fell into it because it was kind of an evolution of vlogging, blogging. And it was next level. Sitting in Peter, looking at news from one side and the other, invariably the comment came, it's all well and good for you to talk about this situation, but you've never been, you don't know. And they were absolutely right. So I remedied that. And then by sort of evolution, then I came to be on the front lines in Mariupol, in Tokmak, Zaporozhye, and then could be termed as a war correspondent, I guess.
So you have the press thing when you're there, right?
No, actually, that's kind of been a bit of an issue. The Bohanka was okay in the first couple, but no, that had Zeds on it. If the Ukrainian drones had got me, they'd have every right to say it was a military vehicle, because all intents and purposes, it looks like one. And now things have changed so much with the drone threat that actually I can't drive that car to the places like Orlovka where I did before. And that's how much things have changed in just 2 years. So no, I don't do the press thing, but equally a lot of my work was more humanitarian based before. And thankfully, there's less demand for that, because the Russian government has stepped up, and the need hasn't disappeared, but is greatly reduced.
Can you describe your experience on RT?
Yeah, it's kind of just a scaled up operation of what I was doing at home, really. There's cameras, there's lights, there's microphones.
We have that as well.
Of course, of course. Scaled up, grander scale, bigger budget perhaps for that. The one thing I will say, and I'll warn others, I think maybe some people thinking I'll just move to Russia and I'll do what you're doing. And it's okay, because you obviously make lots of money off interviews. No, I don't. And it is so infuriating, really infuriating. You'll have people, and I'm going to call RT out on this. Even RT or one of their sort of production companies said, we'd love to do a documentary about you in, I think it was in Kursk.
Oh.
I thought, it was very kind of you. How much are you paying? How much we pay? Yeah. How much you pay? Oh, no, you're the hero. Yeah, I know I'm the hero. How much am I going to get paid then? And they're like, no, we don't pay. Oh, you don't have budget for the hero. You do. You work for free, do you? Oh, I'm a producer. That's it. So wait, how come you as a producer don't work for free, but me as the Geroi, who you want to film under fire in Kursk, gets nothing? And ever since I've been saying that to these companies, I don't get so many calls anymore. And I'm very glad about that. It allows me to focus on my work. But that is extremely disappointing and so hilariously counter to what people in the West will claim. Oh, you Kremlin stooge, you get paid by... You come here, you get paid. I challenge you. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying that you cannot. I'm going to extreme, but it is actually a big bugbear of mine, the amount of interviews you get asked to do where there is no expectation of any remuneration whatsoever on the part. They're just, you'll do it for free. And I'll criticize Nizhny Novgorod as well. They'll say, come to Nizhny Novgorod, we'll pay all your expenses. That's great, but what about my time? My time is an expense as well, and I've got things planned. Oh no, we don't pay for that.
Time's money.
Yeah, exactly, time's money. And you want to basically, get my audience. So you're wanting me to sell out my audience for nothing. I'm not going to do that. So there's a balance. You don't want to be too money hungry, but you still need to pay your bills. And I still don't understand why the people asking can justify it in their heads that it's okay to tell you you'll be working for nothing.
I wonder if this happens to Russians as well.
Oh, I've no doubt. Yeah, sure. And I just think more people... One thing actually I have noticed in Russian women in particular is when they work for companies, they really throw themselves at the company. They make that business their baby, I've noticed. And they don't value their time to the degree that they should. Certainly not for the hours that they're putting in.
And then they burn out.
Absolutely, or then they suffer in other ways in their relationship, in their families or anything, but they will absolutely throw themselves in and really sort of get personally invested in their job, their employer's problems. Whereas I've often had to say, it's like, is that in your contract? Like, no. Well, do you not think you should charge for that? Because I would. Whereas with the Russian male mentality, and again, I'm being very general and broad here, I don't want people to get super upset. But there's more of the Soviet mentality, which I think I have to admit I've been guilty of. Is that my contract? No, not my problem. I'll go home
Great.
now.
Very helpful.
And they'll do kind of the minimum. It's been horrible, not horrible to work. It's been frustrating to work with when you're like, look, I asked you to do this by Thursday. And they're like, yeah, have you done it? It's Thursday. No, you didn't ask me Wednesday. Yeah, but I asked you Tuesday and you said yes. So, well, I'm not paid any extra to do it. It's like, oh, come on. So there's like these two differences. And I think that's where certainly there needs to be a kind of an adjustment. Women need to pull back a little bit and men need to step up a bit more. And
there is this major argument that women are like play a certain role that impacts the economy even. That they're
maybe.
like, yeah, it's like it's very big that like their approach somehow like either.
And Russian customer service is just diabolical.
Yeah, we heard that here.
Yeah, absolutely. That is something like I won't say in cafes generally they're quite fine, but Americans will not get the level that they want, seek, or desire. Even in a car dealership where this guy would literally earn loads of money. I think I went to look at a car the other day. I said, "Oh, I've seen this advert on Avito." He said, "Well, sit over there, wait 20 minutes." Like, no, I'm just gonna walk out. It's like because his contract says he's there from 9 to 5 and he gets paid anyway. Doesn't matter if he sells you that car. So yeah, there's some little mentality and cultural differences, particularly when it comes to employment.
For sure. So coming back to your journalism, one of the biggest challenge of being a journalist. I'm not gonna say the biggest because I understand that this job is unlike any other. So I'm saying asking one of the biggest challenges.
Well, and again, more being an independent one. So there's access. If you're with RT, of course. You can go wherever you like. Generally, you have the power of them behind you. If
a press sign.
Yeah, that's not really like a golden key or anything, or any sort of badge. It's more, there will just be areas that you cannot go to unless you have that accreditation. Yeah. Whether you get that through the size of your audience, things have changed a lot. Again, in the first few years since I went to LNR, DNR, but in more... There's both. It's not just money, like I was saying about getting paid. It's also then taxes as well. In Russia, you need to be really careful. Again, this is something you should get an accountant or lawyers to look over for you, because ideally you have a formal employment contract that will make your life so much easier when it comes to like VNG and RVP, these residency permits, so that there's something on paper. Being independent, having donations just doesn't quite fit in the system. And then when it comes to taxes, you're looking at different regions, their minimum subsistence levels, and then how much taxes. So that is a big part, and it lends both into obviously putting food on your table, but also your existence in Russia as well. So I'd say those, like, that one issue feeds into two very big challenges.
So housekeeping, basically.
Essentially, yeah. And then, of course, yeah, it's all the trickle-down effect. Then it's accommodation and so on, which again, off-grid in Russia, I hope to address.
Yeah, we're really, I'm really looking forward to exploring that. I think
Me too.
Your audience really is. Yeah. So, lawyers and accountants, that's us. We do like what we do, and I work here. I know that we really do a great job. So yeah, explore what we do. The Live Doing Business Russia chat, Romance chat. Yeah, and the Braiden services, it's a special Telegram channel dedicated to all the services we have. It's a service plus the service description. So even before if you would like to know more about a service, you're really welcome to just go to the channel, like type in the service that you need, and it'll come with the service and the service description. Really useful. We update it all the time. So yeah, I hope you make use of that. Fun questions, little questions. One Russian you would interview, dead or alive?
Zhirinovsky.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Why?
Or the predictions that he's made that have come to pass. Just his character as well. Yeah. He is really. It's sad to have to look back and watch him, especially as I came so close to being here whilst he was still alive. He was. If people haven't seen Zhirinovsky, I've published a few of his translated and subtitled speeches. But truly a fascinating character, and even honoured by Putin and recognised as a really clever mind as well. well, I said predictions, but these were kind of forecasts based on obviously Zhirinovsky's experiences, research, and his perception and understanding of certainly geopolitics. But he was speaking even 30 years into the future, and sadly, in some cases, it's come to pass.
Yeah, it's a shame that people do tend to value those who have passed for their input. It's really a shame. But yeah, I've heard, I mean, I haven't explored it myself, but yeah, I've heard quite a few people, quite a few very intelligent people with like a huge understanding of things, saying that Zhirinovsky was really onto something. And it's so crazy that what he's saying is actually coming to life and has come to life already. And God, what awaits us? We should really take a look.
It's not. Yeah, maybe. Take it in sort of both ways.
Okay. Yes. Coming on to that. Your favorite piece of Russian literature you have read either in Russian or in translation?
I see The Notebook or Diary of a Young Doctor by Mikhail Bulgakov.
Yes. Okay. Great. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. The English translation of it. But I did see the Daniel Radcliffe, I think it was BBC actually, production of it as well. So it was, I did it in the wrong way. Usually I like to read books first before seeing it. But as I'd seen it on television, and then I'd come to the book, and then both were good, but they both had their good selling points. Daniel Radcliffe was surprisingly good in that role. But again, I loved it because it was a key area of Russian history around the revolution, with the White Army coming through, the Red Army coming through. Bulgakov did a wonderful job of sort of humorizing that, yet still conveying the difficulties, the struggles that the Russian everyday peasantry and people went through at that time. And Bulgakov's got lots of more other factors in there. I don't want to ruin it for people. And Bulgakov wrote many other things as well, but that, for me, that was a very accessible piece of literature. If someone talked about Dostoevsky or War and Peace, that's probably a bit too far. Funnily enough, when I think it was my first birthday I spent in Russia, my colleagues gave me The Idiot. As an English translation, and I wasn't so sure. I was like, what are you guys trying to say? It's kind of like a running joke in England if you give deodorant to someone at Christmas. What are you trying to say about me for the past year? That maybe I need to use more of this? Or where it's so, I arrive and hey, first birthday, and they're like, here you go, The Idiot. I might go home then.
I didn't do a good job.
But that's a good book as well. That's well worth reading as well.
I mean, I struggled with it in Russian. I can't imagine what's like a translation.
Yeah, the English translation is a bit difficult. I'm not sure it's the best one, but it's a classic.
On that note, how's your Russian?
Лучше после пива или водка.
Okay.
I'm fluent after some vodka. I don't know what it is. It switches a circuit in my brain. Because magically, everyone understands me and I understand everyone else.
I think it's the eye contact that changes.
Maybe.
Not the language.
Well, my eyes go like that, so I don't know.
Then it's even harder.
Yeah, maybe that's why I think everyone understands me. I get suddenly like a pigeon vision everywhere. And I'm still in one piece, so yeah. It's been difficult, but going to Donbas, to an area of Russia where very few people speak English at all, is supremely difficult, but very important that you do, and you do immerse yourself, because you'll hear phrases repeated. Now, perhaps to do that straight away is not ideal.
Yeah.
When I first came to Russia, the company that employed me for at least a year, I think it was the first year, I had private tuition. So that was the alphabet.
That's nice.
It was super difficult after work from 7 p.m. to I think about 9 p.m. On a Monday as well after the weekend. That was awful. My brain was bleeding out my ears, but it was super useful. Mondays and Wednesdays, so twice a week for a year, having that and writing Russian as well. Other people's brains might work differently for me, but it was all well and good hearing like these metro names. Oh, you need to go to Ladoshkaya.
What?
It just didn't compute anything. How was I ever supposed to remember that? I can't convert that, even though you've got the Latin
that doesn't help. I think it confuses you even more.
Absolutely. So I'm like, what's that? And it doesn't matter because it's mixed in this jumble of all others. So having then gained the ability to decode these sounds into even the Latin letters, but better the Russian ones, that was a key access point, I guess, to Russia, and something ideally you'll do before you come to Russia rather than what I did when I was here. But going back to my previous point, going to an area where then, or circumstances whereby you are completely immersed and then forced to regurgitate, like a child is, that's when you'll become more comfortable. And that's my number one enemy. Like I said, my Russian's better after alcohol. The other thing is I'm not overthinking once I've had some alcohol. I've relaxed a bit and I just go with it. I might make a mistake grammatically to my English code that might be absolutely awful. One absolutely must not embarrass oneself. One must get it absolutely right the first time. If you try and do that, you'll do what I do and you'll just sit like a mute. And then the conversation's passed. And people think you're either rude or you just don't understand. You do, but if you just relax or get to the point where you're confident enough through repetition, you then can contribute. You'll make mistakes, but it's okay. You won't get, well, maybe you get laughed at. I think I wrote "lift" the wrong way or something. Someone laughed at me.
You
it was
write
okay.
the wrong way?
Yeah, don't worry, I managed it somehow. I think I used F instead of actually, it doesn't. The point is, you can just roll with it and flow with it, and if you can do that and overcome perhaps that sensibility within you, then you'll do far better, and that will come with time and practice. And as I say, your brain absorbing it. The unintended consequences, you'll probably forget some English like me, because my hard drive is just at capacity. So the more Russian I push in, the more English falls out the other end.
One ear, the other
Absolutely,
ear.
just a sausage factory here.
Oh my god.
Play-Doh factory.
Well, on that note, I think people are really looking to understand you when you're trying to speak Russian. So it's not like a thing.
I can see the pain on their face.
It's not about the pain. It's about
what? Прости меня, пожалуйста.
But it's a matter of cases, because cases is not an English thing. However, I think really people appreciate when foreigners make an effort.
Absolutely.
So you shouldn't be afraid of speaking Russian when you're not good at it. So.
Absolutely, yeah. And when they see that you're willing, then they're far more willing as well to tolerate. So it's a reciprocal thing.
Have you mastered cursive?
Yeah, to a point. To a degree. Even reading it, that was a huge challenge of just complete gobbledygook, like reading a doctor's prescription.
Yeah.
No, it means nothing. Actually, laws come out about that. I've seen in Russia that doctors are no longer allowed to handwrite prescriptions.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, seriously?
Because of course, even Russians couldn't read it at the apteka.
Interesting. I've never heard of that. Wow.
Look it up.
I should.
Yeah,
I should be
just
wary of
the
going to the doctor
just the other day,
time.
like a spider just crawled across the page with ink on its legs.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. I agree. Well, Russian cuisine. Any favorites? Anything a staple of yours?
Yeah, and it's kind of a boring answer, but shashlik.
That's not really Russian though.
No, it isn't. It's something. The reason I say it's Russian is it's got this whole culture that comes with it.
Yeah, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, sure. So you will often go to parts of the countryside, maybe even in Moscow, like down to a river, a lake. You might walk past a nice stretch of forest and you go, oh my God, what's that? And it'll be the shashlik somewhere. Russians just don't care where, or even when sometimes. They'll usually have these little mangals, these little grills, and they'll just cook shashlik wherever they want. And they'll, just pop anywhere they like, and in the strangest locations. Sometimes cities have to legislate, look, please, don't cook shashlik here. But
shashlik is meat, like pieces of meat.
Yeah, and the thing that for me in Russia is it's marinated. It's there's the secret sauces, there's the special mix, and there's someone's got the best. No, someone else has got the best. So I really like that. We could go down things like borscht and things like that. But for me, shashlik again lends into my love of the outdoors and sort of culture in general.
It's a very precious memory for the locals as well, because they're like, oh, you should go for another shashlik. Oh, but you're working. Oh no, but you forget work. We go for a shashlik on weekend.
Yeah,
we really should, especially during the May holidays. The May holidays is like the Labor Day and the Victory Day, and there's like a week and a half. Everything's there's no space. Everybody's like doing the meat thing. Oh God. It's a very precious memory for the locals as well. So something you really should engage to when you're like late spring. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
And it's a very manly thing as well to do, to putting it all on there. So
Yeah, another like the part of chivalry. You have to know how to do a shashlik.
yeah, and I like that in Russia, a man should be a man and a man's man and do the manly things. So yeah, we're not don't feel ashamed for it. I've even got a lazy shashlik at home.
Ooh.
And that, for most Westerners, of course, we don't understand what that is. Essentially, it's a high-resistance wire in a tube, surrounded by, you have your meat sticks where you put the meat on, then a reflective outer, flick the switch, and it rotates. And that's it, your electric shashlik. Wonderful.
Oh, it's good to have a little piece of your memories always ready to go.
Yeah.
What was the most difficult for you migration-wise when you were coming to Russia with the documents? I know that the company was organizing it for you, but just like something.
No, there was
really...
a period where, so after March 2020, with COVID and everything, lockdowns, I was fired from that company. Then I'd come on highly qualified foreign specialist visa. I then needed to get to the temporary residency, and that was, I know, hugely difficult, but not for me. It was for my wife, who I was then married at the time. So we did hire a lawyer to come with us for one of the visits. I know that it was actually the temporary residency, RVP, I believe, that was the most difficult. And that was partly our fault for, well, trying to do it too much on our own instead of paying a professional to help with it. Then there was also circumstances. Before then, my son hadn't been conceived, I don't think, or we just didn't have the pregnancy certificate at that point. So there were all these factors which have since been, as we've discussed, simplified by the shared values thing. So yeah, there were some parts in that transitional time, and again, we'd find the points where the inspector didn't know what the latest law was, and you'd end up telling the inspector their own job.
Again, what was before has now been simplified by the 702 decree, where the TRP, temporary residence permit, is given to citizens of unfriendly countries on the basis of the fact they share moral and traditional values. You can learn more about that on our channel and of the internet just in general. Where you get a TRP without having to pass the exam for Russian language, which is huge.
It was absolutely massive. And that was one thing I was trying to then, in order to get passport application, I think, given my circumstances of being married with a child in Russia, the law changed on something like 11th of October last year, where I was then having to look at a university course to study Russian to the point out, and also the law of Russia, there was legislation.
Yeah.
So essentially they added more exams for people without children, and then for those with children, it then reduced the hurdles. This was before 702 came in. So yeah, that's just in the past like couple of years where things have changed that drastically and that much. So yeah.
Mike, thank you so much. This was a great pleasure, and likewise. I really look forward to the Off the Grid project.
Me too.
And yeah, just looking forward to further collaborate and stay in touch, because this is really great. Thank you everybody for having watched this. You should stay up to date with what Mike's doing, what we're doing, because it's great use and sometimes great fun as well. So yeah, stay with Braiden, stay with Mike Jones, and see you on the next video.